All right, let's talk about one of the biggest pains for AI developers right now, tool overload. We're looking at a fascinating project called Forgemax, which has this wild promise. Taking a massive library of, say, 76 different tools and crunching them down into just two. Seriously. If you're building with LLMs, I bet you know this feeling all too well. Every single tool you add, every new function, it just nibbles away at that super precious context window. And before you know it, you're stuck making compromises, cutting back on what your AI agent can actually do. And just how bad can this get? Well, check this out. With a totally reasonable set of 76 tools, you could be burning through something like 33,000 tokens of context. And that's before your user has even typed a single character. That is a huge, huge overhead that just kills performance and sends your costs through the roof. So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we're going to dig into the core issue, what's called the N by M problem. Then we'll look at Forgemax's super elegant two-tool solution. We'll pop the hood, see how it all works, tackle the big questions around security and performance, and then at the end, we'll get to the verdict. Is this actually worth it for you? Okay, let's get right into the heart of the problem that Forgemax was built to solve. It really just boils down to this: way too many tools and not nearly enough space to put them. So this is the N by M problem. Just imagine you've got N different services, one for GitHub, one for Slack, your file system, whatever. And each of those has M different tools. The way it's usually done is you just dump the entire technical blueprint, the full JSON schema, for every last one of those tools right into the LLM's context. And you do it for every single conversation. It is just wildly inefficient. And this table just lays the pain out perfectly. With just 10 tools, you're already over 4,000 tokens. You get up to 150 tools, you're looking at over 60,000. It's an explosion. But then, look at the Forgemax column. It just stays flat, a constant tiny 1,100 tokens. The cost just stops growing. It doesn't matter how many tools you throw at it. This gets at a much deeper insight. It's not just about token cost. The folks behind Forgemax had this key realization. Asking an LLM to pick the right option from a giant 76-item menu is, well, it's not what they're good at. But asking it to write a little snippet of code to call a tool, that's its bread and butter. That's what it was literally designed to do. So what's the big fix? Well, instead of fighting the LLM's nature, Forgemax leans right into it. And the result is this incredibly simple, powerful approach. This slide shows you the whole idea in a nutshell. On the left, you've got that chaotic mess of individual tools. Just a huge, long list. On the right, you have the Forgemax way. Every single one of those capabilities, all of them, are now accessed through just two commands: search, to find the tool you need, and execute, to actually run it. That's it. And the result is, well, it's just staggering. This chart shows you the before and after with our 76 tools. You go from over 33,000 tokens of overhead all the way down to just 1,100. That's a 96% reduction in the context cost before you even start the real work. It really just rewrites the entire economic equation of building these complex agents. Okay, so this probably sounds a little too good to be true, right? How in the world does Forgemax actually pull this off? Let's take a look under the hood and check out its really clever architecture. So the secret sauce is this thing called progressive manifest discovery. Instead of just info dumping everything at once, Forgemax reveals information in layers. The LLM can ask for just the server names first, then it can ask for the tool categories inside one of those servers, then the specific tools, and only at the very end does it request the full technical schema for the single tool it actually needs. It's a just-in-time approach to knowledge. And here's what that looks like in the real world. The LLM isn't trying to parse some giant menu. Nope. After using that search tool to figure out what it needs, it just writes a simple, clean line of JavaScript inside the execute tool. It's now generating code, which it's great at, instead of just picking from a list. So, of course, letting an AI just write and run code on the fly brings up two giant blinking red lights, right? Is it safe and is it fast? Well, Forgemax has some pretty serious answers for both. Let's be clear, this is not some reckless eval statement. The JavaScript that the LLM writes runs inside a seriously hardened V8 isolate sandbox. Yep, the same engine that powers Google Chrome. This sandbox gets zero access to your file system, zero access to your network, or any of your environment variables. And every single execution runs in a totally fresh, isolated process with strict time and memory limits. This is a very robust, very serious take on security. And what about performance? Forgemax has another trick up its sleeve called Forge.parallel. This lets the LLM actually ask for multiple tools to run at the same time, all within a single execute command. So what might have been, say, 3 slow back and forth trips to the model is now collapsed into one single efficient parallel operation. It's a huge speed boost. Okay, so let's pull all of this together. We've seen the problem, we've seen this really clever solution, and we've seen the secure way it's implemented. So what are the downsides? What are the trade-offs? And really, should you be using this? Look, no tool is perfect, right? And it's really important to know the limitations here. First off, this is a Rust project, and for now, you have to build it from source. Also, and this is a big one, your LLM has to be pretty good at writing JavaScript. Something like Claude is great at this, but smaller models might have a tough time. It's also a very new project, so you should expect a few rough edges. And finally, your debugging process changes a bit. You're not just fixing a bad tool call anymore. You might be debugging the actual JavaScript that the LLM came up with. So here's the bottom line. Forgemax is pretty much a perfect fit if you're a developer using a really capable model like Claude, you're trying to manage, say, more than 10 or 15 tools, and you're just getting crushed by high token costs. For that person, the benefits are huge and they're immediate. But for simpler projects with just a few tools, it might be overkill. And this all leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on. Forgemax isn't just a tool. It's a fundamental shift in how we think about AI agents using tools. It's a move away from picking from a menu and towards generating code. So is this just a niche solution for a very specific problem? Or are we actually looking at the future architecture for how all capable AI agents are going to work? It's definitely something to think about.